Welcome to the Workamper Show, a podcast devoted to helping you discover how to finance your RV travel dreams. I'm Steve Anderson, the president of Workamper News. Each one of our episodes will either introduce you to people who are already living the RV lifestyle or to opportunities to work short-term jobs. You'll also learn how to hit the road the right way and make the most of every opportunity. Now let's turn over today's show to your host, Greg Gerber.
Thank you, Steve. Today I'm interviewing an employer from Alaska who is looking for adventurous people to help others enjoy an adventure of their lifetime. Today's episode is sponsored by The Dreamer's Journey. It's an online course and community produced by Workamper News. Life is way too short to keep your dreams on hold, so don't be held back by fear because you were designed for more. Get started in the RV lifestyle the right way with this comprehensive guide. For just $29.95 for 1 year of access, Dreamers have unlimited viewing of 50-plus videos to learn things like what type of RV to buy, goal setting, how to budget for the adventure, developing a positive mindset, setting up a domicile, and operating a small business on the road, plus everything about work camping and how to find the right job for you. Each video is 30 to 90 minutes long to give an in-depth coverage on each topic. There's no wrong time to get started, so for more information, visit www.rvdreamersjourney.com. David Story is the operations manager for Cooper Landing, one of several locations maintained by Alaska Wildland Adventures. The company specializes in providing travel experiences for small groups of people visiting Alaska. They stay in one of the company's 3 lodges located in the Kenai Peninsula. It's an all-inclusive experience for guests on trips ranging up to 12 days. The staff at Alaska Wildland Adventures take care of all the details a guest requires, like lodging, food, and transportation, so they can simply have a good time and enjoy a variety of activities. Guests have options to relax at the lodges or go on fully guided kayaking, rafting, and hiking excursions. There are also some sport fishing opportunities available. The staff lead people on multi-day, multi-activity trips. It's primarily lodge-based travel, meaning that the lodges serve as a starting base for all kinds of adventures. The lodges are located in some very pristine areas. For example, the Kenai Riverside Lodge is the only one located near a road. The others are located in Kenai National Wildlife Refuge or the Kenai Fjords National Park and are only accessible by boat. The staff only employs 13 people year-round. So David hires about 100 people every year to serve as housekeepers, food servers, shuttle drivers, maintenance workers, and even boat captains and raft guides. The company also needs course guides to describe the area and point out wildlife and landmarks to guests. The season for work campers generally begins in mid-May and runs through mid-September. The company tries to limit work hours to 40 a week so they have a paycheck they can count on, as well as a weekend that they can count on to truly experience all that Alaska has to offer. In fact, work campers usually have the same 2 consecutive days off every week so they can plan their own adventures. Alaskan Wildland Adventures hires couples as well as solo work campers. All the jobs are paid at $15 per hour. Best of all, food is provided. David said the company wants staff to concentrate on providing exceptional guest service. There is also plenty to do when work campers are off the clock. For example, they can borrow one of the company's drift boats and head down the river to fill the freezer with sockeye salmon or just enjoy an outdoor experience. To tell us more about Alaskan Wildland Adventures and how work campers can enjoy a very memorable summer in Alaska, please welcome David Story, the Cooper Landing Operations Manager, to the show. Thanks for joining me today, David. I really appreciate the time. Tell me a little bit about what Alaska Wildland is about.
Sure. Alaska Wildland Adventures is, let's see here. Let me back up a little bit. Alaska Wildland Adventures is primarily centered on providing small group travel experiences to wildlife of Alaska. We sort of specialize in interpretive information, adding some layers of close experience to the lands in particular, to our guest experience as they make their way through a number of activities and locations throughout our itineraries.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
So what kind of adventures do you guide people on?
We lead folk on multi-day, multi-activity trips. It's primarily lodge-based travel. We have 3 lodges that are all located on the Kenai Peninsula here in Alaska. We've got the Kenai Riverside Lodge. That's our main location, and it's the only one of our lodges that's on the road system in Cooper Landing, Alaska. We have the Kenai Backcountry Lodge, which is located on Ski Lake, which is surrounded by the Kenai National Wildlife Refuge and the designated wilderness of the Kenai National Wildlife Refuge. And then we also have the Kenai Fjords Glacier Lodge, which is the only lodge located in Kenai Fjords National Park. And that's accessed through a boat leaving from Seward, Alaska. And it's about a 3-hour boat ride from Seward out into Ayala Bay, where our Kenai Fjords Glacier Lodge is located on Pedersen Lagoon in Ayala Bay.
Wow. Did I hear you say that you hire about 130 staff members every season?
Give or take, we hire, somewhere a little bit over 100 folk every year. We have a lot of returning staff each year. And so as far as new hires are concerned, we're usually looking to fill somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 50 positions, depending on the year. And those vary a fair bit in their responsibility, but it is everything from housekeeping and servers to boat captains, to raft guides, to shuttle drivers, to maintenance folk, and of course guides who specialize in providing an interpretive experience throughout the trip that our guests are on.
Wow, that's ambitious.
It is. It's pretty great. We're really fortunate in that we have those 3 lodges that we primarily run our trips between, but we also take folk to Denali National Park up north and Talkeetna, Alaska, so that they can have some experience a little ways away from the Kenai Peninsula and get a little bit more of a sampling of what Alaska has to offer. Those sorts of things are also able to be added on to with us helping to make connections for folk who want to go on a bear viewing to Katmai National Park or what have you. We can help coordinate those and fill out a traveler's itinerary with some other experiences that will complement the ones that we provide in-house.
Oh, that's very good. And what other types of jobs do the Workampers typically perform for you?
Well, so a work camper, somebody who's wanting to travel with their own accommodation, RV, or what have you, probably going to have the best success being based out of our Kenai Lodge in Cooper. And the folk that we would hire for that lodge, like I said, could be doing anything from basic hospitality services, sort of the entry-level housekeeping, serving, all the way up to sort of a maintenance specialist, to raft guide, shuttle driver, cooks, anything kind of within that guest service realm, we probably have a spot that folk can fill.
So is this a kind of business where you are like escorting people who are on vacation and basically doing everything for them? You get them to the lodge that they're going to, and then you feed them and all that kind of stuff. So they basically just come on board and have fun.
Yeah. So we kind of specialize in providing those all-inclusive experiences. Like I said, it is all-inclusive small group tours. It features fully guided hiking, rafting, kayaking, just relaxing at the lodges they're traveling to. Our trips generally range from 7 to 12 days, and we can take care of all the details that a guest needs, including lodging, transportation, the equipment, and of course dining and accommodations. So folks can kind of set those things aside and relax and enjoy their experience.
Mm-hmm. And now most of your work campers are you're hiring a lot of work campers. You don't really hire a lot of local hires to help with this project?
We've got a pretty good mix of folk who may have grown up in the state. Maybe they're living in the state now after, sort of a lot of Alaskans are transplants. And so we do have a lot of residents from Alaska that work for us also. But a good chunk of our workforce every year is folk who are looking to come and experience Alaska a little more intimately and a little bit more extended stay than a 7 to 12 day adventure is going to allow. It's not uncommon. In fact, a number of our staff have actually been on one of our trips before and kind of fallen in love with the locations and the company, and have come back to work for us afterward. So yeah, of our staff, we have a pretty good mix of Alaskan residents as well as folk that are sort of heading on their way to become transplants. Because once you come up here, it's pretty hard to be satisfied with anywhere else.
Oh, that's neat. So are your opportunities all seasonal? Are they year-round?
Most of our opportunities are seasonal. Our season typically runs between mid-May to sort of mid-September. Sometimes it fudges one way or the other based off of our bookings or special events, things along those lines. But most of our staffing is in the summer. Like I said, we've only got about 13 year-round staff who are kind of our main office crew, our sales and reservations crew, and some of our operations managers like myself.
Okay. And how many hours do work campers typically put in for the jobs that they're hired to perform?
Well, we know that there's a lot of opportunities in Alaska to burn the candle at both ends and put in tons of hours. Those jobs, there's plenty of them. If you want to go work in a fish plant and crank out 70, 80 hours a week, you can do that. But we put a pretty big focus on making sure that the majority of our staff are working 40-hour work weeks so that they have a paycheck that they can count on, but they also have a weekend that they can count on so that they can get out and explore Alaska, recharge their batteries, and come back to work, feeling restored and recharged, because that's really what shines through to our guests. And so we work pretty hard to make sure that everybody has a regular weekend, 2 days off in a row, usually the same 2 days off every week, so that they can plan adventures in Alaska for themselves and get out and see some of those things that they wouldn't have an opportunity to do if they didn't have some regular planning available to them.
That makes sense. So do you hire solo work campers as well, or are you primarily looking for couples?
We'll hire all of the above. We've had a great deal of success with couples who've come to us and they'll have complementary jobs a lot of times, or skill sets that are a little bit different than each other, but they end up being a great pair. We've also had a lot of folk that are traveling as singles, and good opportunity to meet a community of folk who like to get outside, like to spend time recreating, whether it's fishing, hiking, kayaking, camping, etc. They're going to have an opportunity to kind of have an automatic community when they come to Alaska that they can get out and explore with.
Are these paid jobs?
They are paid jobs, yep. We have a starting wage for all of our positions at $15 an hour. And we also take care of all of your room and board while you're working for us, so that, again, you can kind of concentrate on providing exceptional guest service and feeling good about what you're doing.
Cool. What kind of perks do they get?
We've got a number of perks depending on the Riverside Lodge. One of the perks being alongside the world famous Kenai River. We operate trips providing sport fishing as well as scenic rafting along the upper stretch of the Kenai River, which includes some of the Kenai National Wildlife Refuge and some sort of harder to get to sections of the river than down on the lower. So one of the biggest perks is real easy access to fishing, and that tends to be primarily sockeye salmon is sort of the big draw for a lot of folk, as well as and Dolly Varden fishing. And so we've generally got a lot of folk at the Riverside Lodge who, once they clock out of work in the evening, head off and go down the river on our rafts or our drift boats with some of our guides off the clock and go out and fill the freezer with a bunch of sockeye salmon or just enjoy themselves on the river.
That's fun. So they can take time off. They'll have plenty of time off during the day to get out there and do some fishing once their shift is over.
Yep. Once you get done with fishing and usually some dinner, everybody kind of fills up the belly before they head out. A lot of folk really enjoy spending time kind of late in the day. But the way that the fishing regulations are laid out, if you go out sockeye fishing, for instance, in the evening, if you stay out until after midnight, you can have your daily limit from the night that you started as well as that next day, so you can come back with even more fish in the freezer when you do so. So a lot of folk will head out in those evening trips.
Oh, that's neat. Now, when you had said that the work campers are getting 2 days off, generally the same time every week, does that mean that it's a couple getting 2 days off at the same time, or it might be possible that one will be working 5 days on and then 4 days off? And
sure. Well, that certainly can happen, and especially with any of the specialized positions. Again, we work pretty hard to make sure that folk have those complimentary days off. So if your partner happens to have one weekend, we'll do our best to make sure that each of you will have that as your weekend, and you can really kind of enjoy being able to travel together and find the fun things about Alaska.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah. Is it possible that they're going to see the Northern Lights from where you're at?
Yep, you can see the Northern Lights. I will say that generally speaking, our season doesn't make that super easy unless you're willing to stay up really late at night because we get quite a bit of sunlight in the summer. So your best opportunity to see the Northern Lights is going to be either at the beginning or the end of the season when our daylight hours are a little bit more similar to the lower 48. In the peak of the summer, we don't see much more than dusk as far as the light is concerned for a good chunk of the dates surrounding the summer solstice.
Mm-hmm. What kind of traits and qualifications do you look for in a work camper?
So for any of our positions, the kind of the main things that we're looking for before everything else is a cheerful, enthusiastic attitude. If there's a specific task like a maintenance role, something along those lines, you might have to have some more in-depth knowledge of tools or machinery, equipment, that kind of thing. But from the get-go, any of our positions, the most important thing is having a good attitude and being willing to work in a kind of a communal camp-like atmosphere. We live in close quarters with each other, figuratively, but we're sharing meals. We're sharing a lot of the same common areas. So being a good person who is willing to lift others up before themselves is probably the most important quality that we're looking for in any of our staff, so that when you come to work, you know that you have people you can depend on and that are going to be looking for the best in what they have to offer, instead of being frustrated by the inevitable changes that go on. We live in a really dynamic state. The natural systems are very dynamic, and tourism in Alaska is very dynamic for that same reason. So a lot of itinerary changes or logistical changes, weather interruptions, all sorts of things that can complicate a normal, what seems like a normal day-to-day task. You might have to adapt to some of those changes, and so having that flexible attitude and that positive attitude is really key to being successful in that environment.
Oh, that's neat. Now, do they need any special skills or training to take these jobs?
No, we've got a number of entry-level positions that, like I said, anybody with a positive attitude and sort of your basic, mobility, et cetera, is able to do without accommodation. And so whether it is turning over cabins and housekeeping, or whether it is serving meals, or whether it is shuttle driving. We'll do a fair bit of training to make sure that you're up on step before guests ever show up. We usually have about a 2-week period where we don't have guests in-house, where we go over all the basics of your day-to-day job. In a lot of ways, it's kind of like playing cards. We're going to play a few hands where we're showing each other our hands and learning the game before we start turning loose, and you'll get that rotation figured out, and pretty soon you're playing on your own, and you're figuring out how to make things work even better.
I think you mentioned that you will be providing some sort of guide services to your guests as well. Do the work campers need experience in order to do that, or is that the kind of training that you provide?
Yes, for our guide positions in particular, that's one of the roles that we usually have the most return, and sort of is one of the highest demand positions that people really want to move forward with. And so we are pretty selective. It is a very competitive process for being hired on as a guide with us. There are some certifications that you need for certain positions. Guiding is one of them. In order to guide on any of our trips that take folk into remote areas, you do need to have a wilderness first responder certification. That's an advanced medical certification. Of course, previous experience is really helpful too. We do have a couple of guide positions that are sort of entry level for the industry. Our raft guide position in particular is one that is often a really good stepping stone for folk who maybe have a little bit of guiding experience before, but maybe the particular activity is a little new to them. Again, it's not big, crazy whitewater type of guiding. It's a little bit more focused on interpretation, sharing the attributes of the natural systems that you're traveling through, talking about the cultural history that surrounds us, and being able to share that information. So if you have previous experience in education or interpretation, any of those sorts of things can lend themselves to that. But that would be an example of one of the positions that you might need a little bit more experience to jump into.
Okay, that's fair enough. And the work campers, or when do you start recruiting work campers for next season?
So we will start our hiring in earnest, really basically after the new year. Typically, we ask to hear back from our last previous by late December to sign on and say, yes, I plan on coming back, or no, I'm heading back to school, or I'm doing something else. So once we know who's coming back into the positions, and what spots are open, that's when we usually start reaching out to anybody who's expressed interest through our application process. But that application process is open right now. Anybody who would like to can go to alaskawildland.com and look for the employment tab. There's some instructions how to submit an application and information along with that. And once you've done so, you'll get a response, an email that lets you know that we've received that. But we'll actually start reaching out, usually, like I said, after the new year, to connect with those folks after we've found out what positions we will have available for this next year.
That's neat. I was, expecting that a lot of these are rugged adventures. Does this mean that you have to be very bear aware of all of your surroundings all the time when you're out and about with these folks?
Yep. So we always kid, even when you're in the grocery store parking lot, you're in bear country. And so, yeah, it's important to have a sense of bear awareness. Wherever you're traveling, we have bears, moose come right through camp at all of our locations. And so it is really important that folks know about those things. On a really practical level, a lot of the same sort of good practices that you might have in any sort of campground environment, keeping a clean campsite, not leaving your food out, not inviting critters and bears and things like that to make their way into your stuff. That's going to be something that's important at all of our locations, as well as anytime you're traveling with guests.
Mm-hmm. Now, how many locations do you have?
So we have 3 locations on the Kenai Peninsula, 3 lodges, the Kenai Riverside Lodge, the Kenai Backcountry Lodge, and the Kenai Fjords Glacier Lodge, all located on the Kenai Peninsula. And then we also run trips up north and contract with partners in Denali National Park and Talkeetna and further north for the experiences that coincide with activities up further there. As far as work camper locations where somebody might want to bring an RV or their own housing, something along those lines, the Kenai Riverside Lodge in Cooper Landing is going to be the spot to locate where we have some RV sites that you can hook up to and kind of make yourself at home.
Okay. What's involved in your interviewing and hiring process?
So for our interview and hiring process, we ask everybody to submit a resume and a cover letter expressing their interest and why they want to come work with us. And once they've done so, we have an application as well that will help to kind of zero in on the types of positions they're most interested in and their qualifications. After that, we ask everybody to go through 2 interviews so that we can have an opportunity for one of our managers to kind of cover some of the basic groundwork. And then depending on, what sort of role those folk are most interested in or where they're best going to fit, that direct manager will be usually the second person that contacts them to talk over some of the specifics and ask some of the more pointed questions about what works well, frustrations, things like that we can help to make sure that the experience that the work camper might have would be a really good one throughout the summer.
What kind of commitment is required to become a work camper?
The main thing that we're looking for is a commitment ideally for the full season. Like I said, between mid-May and mid-September is our normal season. And so especially folks that are working with us for the first time, we really ask that they're present for our all-staff training at the beginning of the season and can commit to a full season, clear out till kind of mid-September, so that they have an opportunity to really see the full cycle of a season. Later on, if you've worked with us for a couple of seasons, it's a little bit easier to plug somebody in for a shorter contract or a smaller amount of time because you've already gone through that main cycle. You know what that bigger picture looks like and how to fit into it easily.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there a problem with work campers getting across the border from Canada up to Alaska?
We have experienced a few different variations. Last year we didn't really have as much trouble. Of course, 2020 was an anomaly for an awful lot of us, and there was some difficulties. Everybody made it through. Everybody who was planned on coming up was able to make it through it. Although we did have a few folks that kind of had to answer a few more questions at the border than other ones did. But everybody's been able to make it up without any real difficulty. And this last year, we didn't have any significant difficulties with folks making it across the border to come to Alaska. The main limitation was, especially during the 2020 and the main quarantine times, the main thing was folk were not allowed to sightsee or do other things along the way through Canada. They just needed to head north and keep heading north, especially through the Yukon. At the peak, folks that were traveling through the Yukon had 24 hours that they needed to make it through and be out of the Yukon, because of course the Yukon's medical services are much more limited. There's only 30,000 people, I think, in the province or the territory. And so they worked really hard to make sure that folk from outside were not coming in and taking those resources or exposing folk to COVID risks.
What can a work camper do to stand out among all the other applicants?
I think to stand out, the main thing is being willing to maybe look at some positions that aren't necessarily the end goal. The folks that are sort of willing to jump in wherever is needed, adaptability and, pitching in to accomplish stuff that isn't maybe the most exciting. And so an open mind to sort of get your foot in the door, Maybe it's accepting an entry level position so that you can get a better perspective on what the company is like, the company culture, the jobs themselves, and then zero in on something that is more exciting for you for the next season. A lot of the folk that are coming up here, it might be their first time in Alaska. And so even somebody who's moving into a role that they have accomplished that same job somewhere else, it can be kind of a different animal here in Alaska and in this sort of intense seasonal environment because of the circumstances, because of the remoteness or what have you. And so being willing to jump in and kind of help out with whatever is needed is really one of the ways to stand out.
What draws people to your area? In other words, what can they do when they're not working?
Sort of the big ticket is sport fishing for a lot of folks. The Kenai River is world renowned for sockeye salmon fishing, silver salmon fishing, trout, and Dolly Varden, rainbow trout in particular. And so sport fishing is a really big draw for the Kenai River. But some of the things that are also really fun to do are maybe not as well known with the sport fishing crowd. They get a little focused on that, but there are exceptional trails to hike or mountain bike on nearby. There are big glacial lakes that are a lot of fun to go kayak on. Some paddle boarding, pack rafting is a big popular thing at the moment. And a lot of exposure is kind of taking place there. Really, if you like being outdoors, you like doing things outdoors, Alaska probably has some of what you want to do. Mm-hmm. Especially those non-motorized activities tend to be some of the biggest draws for our area in particular.
How far are you folks from Anchorage?
We're about 100 road miles from Anchorage. It ends up being pretty close to a 2-hour drive from Anchorage. As a crow flies, we're much closer, but we're separated from Anchorage by turning an arm, which is a part of Cook Inlet. And so you got to drive clear down one leg of it and back the other side of it to get onto the Kenai Peninsula and to Cooper Landing. So it ends up being about 100 road miles away.
Where can Workampers get supplies and things like that in the area?
The closest sort of grocery stores aside, we do have a small grocery store, a little akin to kind of a general store here in Cooper Landing, and some resources there. But the bigger grocery stores, supermarkets, that kind of thing, our closest ones are in Soldotna, Alaska, Seward, Alaska, and then Anchorage. Both Soldotna and Seward are, give or take about an hour away from us, whereas Anchorage is about 2 hours away. And so those are the main resupply spots that folk would go to for, groceries and, pharmacies and things along those lines. But again, we provide room and board. We rarely have anybody feel like they are going hungry at Alaska Wildland Adventures. Most people end up experiencing what some might remember in college as the freshman 15. We eat very well. Our meals, we stock the fridges and pantry for folk to prepare their own breakfasts and lunches. And then our chefs actually make a meal for dinner that is, hot dinner provided every day for all of our staff. And so you're also welcome to use those supplies for your adventures on the weekend, get ready to go backpack and that kind of thing.
Are those meals provided?
They are. Yes,
okay.
They're included as a part of your compensation in addition to your hourly wage.
Okay. Wow. That sounds neat. And what kinds of things are they feeding you in that? Is this a lot of fish dinners?
We do actually eat a fair bit of fish. That is true. Both halibut and salmon tend to be kind of the big ones of the fish variety on the menu. But it can be a little bit of anything. Our chefs have a menu for our guest services to coordinate between the lodges, so our guests are not going to end up eating the same thing, if they travel from one lodge to the next. But the staff meals are the ones where the chefs have a little bit more license to experiment and have some fun. Standard fare, there's generally going to be some type of, we like to call it Stir Friday, have some Asian cuisine on Friday evenings. It's not a certainty, but it is pretty common. We've got some Mexican dishes and things that tend to be hits and asked for regularly. But we could have kind of anything that you can think of. We've probably created for staff meals. They tend to be really healthy. We can accommodate most any kind of regular dietary restrictions. We have a lot of vegetarians and some vegans that have worked with us for years and have plenty to eat. And we've got some meat eaters that are well satisfied too. But it is no danger of going hungry at Alaska Wildland Adventures.
That's fun. Where can people get more information about this opportunity?
Best place to look for more information about not only applying with us, but also about the company itself is at alaskawildland.com. And that's going to have information about the trips that we run, about the lodges that we're at, as well as the activities that you might participate in. And then, of course, we do have the employment tab, which is going to have all the information you need in order to find out how to apply, what information is required, the types of jobs that are available, etc.
Very good. Well, this has been fascinating, David. I really appreciate your time. It sounds like a fun place to work, and I hope a lot of people take advantage of this and submit an application, because I've only spent 1 week up in Alaska, and it was absolutely the best week I've ever had. I mean, there's a Kodak moment around every corner, and it's just a wonderful experience, and I hope more people take advantage of this.
Yeah, it is. It's a wonderful experience indeed. There's amazing places to go and explore. I think most people would say that they have a similar experience when they come and work here as well. Folks that have been to Alaska and enjoyed it in the past have a little bit more time to get to know it more intimately by staying in the same spot for a full summer and really getting to know some of the the less well-known corners of the area and have a little bit more time to kind of savor it. So it is a great spot to be, and only thing you got to be careful about is that you probably want to just stay here once you get there, and you might have a hard time telling your family you're not coming back to the lower 48.
That's neat. Well, thank you again, David. I appreciate your time, and I wish you the best of luck in 2022, and I hope a lot of people step forward and sign up for this unique adventure.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on.
David Story, the Cooper Landing Operations Manager for Alaska Wildland Adventures, described a really exciting opportunity for work campers who like to be outdoors and have a desire to provide exceptional customer service to guests on vacation. Unless the work campers are engaged in highly technical jobs such as maintenance or require special licensing such as boat captains, most jobs require nothing more than a good attitude and a desire to work in a communal camp environment. He said that being a good person who is willing to lift others up before themselves is probably the most important quality the company is looking for in any staff member. Other important traits for work campers is flexibility. Being an outdoor-oriented company, changing weather can force itinerary changes at any time, and that requires guests and staff to respond accordingly. For example, if a storm is predicted, a planned excursion might need to be cut short or postponed with a different activity taking place that day. Alaskan Wildland Adventures schedules a 2-week training period early in the season for work campers to learn the specific jobs and understand how everyone is expected to work together to deliver a memorable guest experience. The company starts recruiting work campers early in the new year, so people who want to take advantage of this unique opportunity should submit an application soon. The first step is to visit www.alaskanwildland.com and look for the Employment tab. There are instructions on that page about how to submit an application and information about any open positions. Those work campers who are flexible and willing to jump in to help out wherever they're needed will really stand out in the application process. Some of the jobs are entry-level positions, so people who've never been to Alaska can get their feet wet before jumping into more challenging jobs. All RVers will work out of Cooper Landing. There's a combination general store and grocery in that community. The larger stores are about an hour away, while Anchorage is about 2 hours away. Don't forget, Alaska Wildland Adventures provides all food for work campers, and David said the food is so delicious and plentiful that many people gain a few pounds. For more information about Alaskan Wildland Adventures, visit www.alaskanwildland.com. Today's episode was sponsored by Workamper News. With its Diamond and Platinum membership tools, Workamper News is much more than just a job listing website. When you put the tools of this professional service into action, you'll find out just how easy it can be to turn your work camping dreams into reality. The one-year memberships open the door to a one-stop shop for all things work camping. Being the original resource for work camping, find the largest number of job listings, be able to connect with a community of work campers, and view resources compiled by experts who've been enjoying the RV lifestyle for many years. If you're serious about leading a successful and enjoyable work camping lifestyle, then a Diamond or Platinum membership is for you. You can even get started with a free 30-day trial by visiting www.workamper.com/trial. Embark on new adventures today with the support of Workamper News behind you. That's all I have for this week's show. Next week, I'll be talking with a different employer who is hiring work campers for several locations in the western part of America. I'll share those details on the next episode of The Workamper Show. Thank you for listening.